Hello, people of God. Welcome to our today's episode on Let's Keep Our Education Catholic. I'm Sister Augustine Ambata. Today, I am thrilled to have Dr. Debra Sullivan with us. She's a co-director at the Andrew Greenlee Center for Catholic Education and also an associate professor at the School of Education, Loyola University, Chicago. Debbie is a sweetheart, and I found her approach to Catholic school education incredibly inspiring because she's passionate about supporting Catholic schools, especially in building leadership among administrators. Debbie, welcome. It's a pleasure to have you here, and this is where we look at real-life issues in Catholic schools and try to advocate for change by providing practical solutions. Welcome, Debbie.
Thank you, sister. It's such an honor to have been invited to join you for this conversation. You know, this is my passion, so I'm excited to talk with you about this.
Thank you. So, Debbie, I know you have an incredible background in Catholic education, no doubt. So, from your wealth of experience, serving and working in Catholic schools, what are some of the biggest challenges that Catholic schools in the United States are facing today?
Well, I think the most obvious is operational vitality challenges, the ability to fund the mission of Catholic education while still keeping it affordable so that all families who want their children to have access to Catholic education are able to get their children a Catholic education. And part of this is related to the steady declining enrollment that we see in many parts of the country. Now, it's super exciting to see in certain pockets of the country where enrollment in Catholic schools is growing and they are building new schools. That gives me great hope for the future. But if you think in the overarching issue for Catholic schools across the country, those operational issues and concerns and the ability to keep the doors open even as enrollment fluctuates, making sure that Catholic education is available to those who want it and not a exclusive selective enrollment kind of program, but available, all being welcome to Catholic education, as that's our moral imperative as Catholic schools. I think another challenge that is currently being felt by most schools, and definitely in Catholic schools, is the ability to recruit and retain top quality teachers for long stretches of time. And, there's lots of reasons for that. Often people boil it down to the low pay scale in Catholic schools. But I think it's so much more complicated than about pay. I think anyone that goes into teaching isn't doing it to get rich. They realize even public school teachers are not paid well in the compared to the marketplace. But the idea that how the demands and expectations that are being placed on teachers in the education setting today are constantly growing. And certainly the compensation is not growing along with that. But teachers are the emotional toll, the physical toll that it's taking on teachers' health make it hard to recruit people to go into the field, to come to our schools, and then to keep them there for long periods of time. Those are some real challenges.
Yeah, I agree with you. Those are definitely significant issues. I mean, even from my experience working in Catholic schools, there are pressing issues of financial constraint and not being able to, adequately pay the teachers, just like you mentioned about recruitment, paying the staffs too. Then there are also issues of maintaining enrollment and, adapting to changing educational standards while preserving a Catholic identity, right? And here in the United States, we've seen Catholic schools closing down. Many are struggling with enrollment and they are losing population. So could you connect these issues, like how these operational challenges, impact enrollment?
Well, I think that it's kind of a dynamic impact. So I think declining enrollment impacts the operational vitality of a school because you don't have the tuition revenue that you once had to cover the expenses of the school. And so that makes some shifts. But I think additionally, schools are expected to deliver a broader range of services to students and families now than ever before. So the need for some specialists on staff, social workers, school psychologists, special teachers that have some learning and behavior specialist background to help support diverse learning needs and support teachers in meeting diverse learning needs. All of those sorts of demands and expectations elevate the cost of a program, but it also, when schools are struggling, some of those things are cut or truncated, and then families leave to find those services in another school, another setting. I think another thing that is at play is that in today's world, families move more than ever before. So a family may not stay in a neighborhood Catholic school for all 8 years or 9 years of elementary or even into the high school years. Families transfer for work, so they move across state lines. They move across cities, they move within the state to other cities or other neighborhoods for varying reasons. And so I think that mobility in American families is also at play with the enrollment decline in Catholic schools. So, depending on where you end up, you may or may not end up near a local Catholic school or opt to go to the local Catholic school. Back in the day, people went to their parish school, but now people are much more about shopping around and finding the school and hopefully the parish that meet their needs. But when they're finding the school for their children, it's not always their local parish school, because maybe their parish doesn't have a school, or maybe that school that is associated with their parish isn't one that they find acceptable for their child's needs, and they shop around and go to other schools. And so that's created much more of a marketplace, a challenge for how do schools tell the story of the work that they're doing, so that families know to come or know what they would find when they come there. And that adds another layer. And it's not a new layer, it's just becoming more and more complex as time goes on.
Yeah, interesting. I see. It's like a domino effect. We are one issue escalates another, right?
Absolutely. And the whole issue of teachers, when there's instability in faculty, parents have reaction to that as well. Sometimes they feel that means that the school isn't stable, that the school isn't strong, that there's some loss of learning that happens when there's turnover. Or sometimes, the challenges that come with that can lead to enrollment concerns as well.
Interesting. Thank you so much, Debbie. So now, as an expert that you are, expert in this field, you have mentioned the different challenges and how they are connected to enrollment. What are some practical steps forward? Like, how can Catholic schools address these challenges effectively?
So I'm a really big believer in using data to help us drive decision making in our schools. And the Greeley Center is a very solid proponent of the national standards and benchmarks for effective Catholic elementary and secondary schools. We call them, for short, we call them the NSBECs. And those standards are divided into the 4 domains, where they have the mission and Catholic identity, the governance and leadership, domain, the academic excellence, and the operational vitality domain. And if you look at the standards and benchmarks within those 4 domains as a school leader, as a school leadership team, and you're attentive to those standards and looking at where are we as a school community in each of those domains at any given time, and then setting goals that help us to grow and improve in those areas, leveraging those standards to help shape our continuous improvement work as a school strategically, I think is one of the best ways to maximize the benefit and leverage your work for the greatest good in your school. So I really encourage schools to engage in strategic continuous improvement planning work, leveraging those NSBECs as the foundation to help guide that work, to help them guide the goal setting in that planning. So that's, and that's a lot of work, but it engages the broader community, the teachers, the students, the parents, the parish community, possibly, in a way that's how this Catholic education should be. It should be a community effort, and we should all be pulling together. And so by engaging in this process and engaging these constituencies, I think that gives greater stability, buy-in, passion, and commitment for the success of the school, which ultimately feeds the success of the education for the children. I think another element, another really practical way that schools could start to address some of these concerns and issues would be to create a leadership team that meets on a regular basis and functions like a professional learning community, where they use data in track progress towards whatever goals they've set as a school to make sure that they're staying on track, making adjustments earlier rather than later, in order to maintain that movement in the forward direction, and communicating transparently about their progress towards those goals. I think that PLC approach from using data and really, targeting our work is what will help to move schools in a productive, consistent manner to a point of strength, right? Nothing has to be perfect because we're humans, so it's not perfect. And we can have setbacks, but it doesn't have to derail us. We as a community can pull together and pull ourselves through if we're being attentive to our mission and our vision and really, really working together in true collaborative spirit for that mission and vision. I think that's when I think about the call for us as Catholic educators to bring God's word and gospel values to children and have, grow disciples, right? I think that takes a collaborative effort. And so I think that modeling that and working that consistently in every aspect of nurturing growth and sustainability in our schools is probably the most practical advice I could give to any leader.
Wow, David, these are practical strategies. Nothing has to be perfect because we are humans, right? Those are very effective strategies. It's so important for us as Catholic educators, to stay very proactive and practical. Thank you, Debbie, for letting us tap into your extensive knowledge, especially during such a busy time for you. It's been a pleasure having you. All right, to everyone, we've heard it. The Catholic school is our collective responsibility. She connected all the dots, from parents to policymakers to managers, administrators, teachers, parents. We need to go back to the drawing board. How can we maintain identity in this ever-changing world? Because our students should always be our priority, in fact. So we shouldn't allow the wave of secularism to overshadow the beauty of our values. Now share your thoughts on your experiences. Does anything from what our guests shared today resonate, or if your experience is totally different? Share it. Also, how are you managing the situation? Put it on the comment section and let's articulate thoughts together. And feel free to ask questions, make contributions, or if you have anything you want to talk to me about, I will share my email in the comment section. Please, let us not relent in keeping our education Catholic. Until next time, goodbye and God bless.